I do. What do you think? How has everybody been doing? How has been your week or the last few days? I hope everybody's doing well. So we've come to a point in the year that it's a new season. It's a new start. For me, springtime is more so a new start than January 1st. I like this season. For me, it's kind of the beginning of a season into the warmer season, which most of you know that I like the warmer season. So coming into this season, for me, is much more pleasant. I'm much more happier coming into this season as opposed to coming into winter or one of the other seasons. Over the last week and a bit, there's been St. Patty's Day, which is always a kind of a cool thing to celebrate. And then we kind of come into the first day of spring, which in there I also celebrate a birthday. And I think this year, coming into spring has meant a little bit more so than any other years. We're coming up on over a year into this new normal, and I think coming into spring this time has a little bit of different meaning for some people. I guess for some people things are not improving, and for some people things are improving. And what I would encourage you to do is try to find those good things that have improved. Over the last year, has what you've been doing over the last year been good for you? If not, what are some things that you can do to change that? What can you do to make a positive change if the past year has not been a positive change? If the past year for you has been a lot of negativity and a lot of change that you're not liking, what can we do to flip that on its side? And let's find a good thing. Find one little good thing that's happened to you in the last year and go with that. Do you need a small change? Do you need a big change? I decided to go for a big change. Pretty much 360 from what I used to have before. But I needed a change. I kind of wanted something really different, and I'm at a point where I'm feeling a little frustrated, a little fed up, and I want to make a positive change. So what can you find in your life that's going to give you a positive change? Yes? Obviously, I would hope that you would join me in making your positive change movement for your body so that you feel better and you're able to carry on that positive change into other activities that you want to do. Whether it's more yoga, any other activity. We've talked about this before. I want you to make a positive change for yourself. Whether it's a small change or a big change, it doesn't really matter. We need those positive reinforcements, especially now. It's been a long year, and I'm thinking I'm ready for some good vibes, some good positive changes, and I hope that you will join me in continuing with this channel, and hopefully we'll get some good changes and some good vibes that we can both share. So today's practice is going to be a pretty gentle one, just to see if we can kind of embrace or encourage this new season to come in, and maybe we can kind of open ourselves up so that we can take in those changes, take in the spring, take in the flowers, take in the warmer weather, the sunshine, all of those good things. Are we open to those things? Are we open to those positive changes that we want to do? And I'm hoping your answer is yes. We are open to those positive changes. So I would encourage you to get into a position that you want to start your practice. If it's in your traditional shavasana, or if you would like to sit, you kind of decide. So I'm going to start in a sit position, but I encourage you to find whatever position is best for you. So as you settle into the position that you've chosen, I do encourage you to try to soften your body. Soften into the floor if you're on your back. If you're in a sit position, soften the shoulders so that they kind of roll down towards the floor. Soften the torso, soften your hips so that they melt into the floor. And just take a quick little body scan. Don't get too elaborate here. Just take a quick body scan. Just to acknowledge how you actually feel right now. And again, don't get into this big debate. Don't get in an argument with yourself. Just take a quick little body scan to see how are you actually feeling right now at the beginning of your practice. And we'll take a few breaths here. And as you soften into your space, allow yourself to take in what your practice is going to give you today. Don't have any expectations. Don't set some imaginary bar for yourself. Be willing to accept whatever your body's going to accept for you today. Gently start to wake up the body with those gentle, small movements. And again, be gentle with yourself. Don't overdo it. Encourage those easy movements so that you don't overexert yourself, so that you feel good throughout your practice, so that you will be relaxed. Because we know a relaxed body is much more likely to accept the change. And as your little movements start to get bigger and bigger, I do encourage you to come to your back. If you're already in Shavasana, I'll obviously stay there. If you're in a sit position, come down to your back. And then gently draw the knees into the chest. And again, notice where is it comfortable for you to draw your knees into your chest. Is a little further away more comfortable? Maybe it's more comfortable for your front side of the body, but it's not for the back side. Maybe your low back doesn't like that. On the other side of that coin, if you draw your knees too tightly into the chest, does your belly feel uncomfortable? Find the in-between spot, that Goldilocks spot that is best for you. And you might even kind of move from both of those positions, just taking a little bit of gentle movement here in your hip socket. Keep the left knee into your chest and extend the right leg long along the mat. Drive that right heel into the floor so that you have a little bit of stability, and just gently sway the left knee side to side. So we're just encouraging a little bit more movement in that hip socket. So you can go gently side to side. You can maybe take some gentle circles with that left knee. Keep the head and shoulders relaxed. And as you find that gentle movement in that left hip socket, just notice how it feels. Notice if it's tight more as you go to the inside or to the outside. Do you feel a little sticky spot? And then draw the knee to the center of your chest. And then if you feel okay, grab a hold of that knee, lift the head and shoulders at this point, and try to bring your nose a little closer to your knee. And just notice again, how does that feel on the back side of your body? How does it feel on the front side of the body? How does it feel in your shoulders? Can you still relax the shoulders? Or are you gripping so tightly that you can't breathe? So still be able to breathe as you gently draw that left knee into the chest. And then release the head and shoulders, draw the right knee into the chest, and extend the left leg long. And as you extend that left leg long, firm it up a little bit. Drive that heel into the floor a little bit so that that left leg is not just loosey-goosey. Have it engaged a little bit. And then start to move the right knee side to side. Just so that you notice what you notice. Is this hip feeling the same as the other one that you just worked on? Does it feel tighter, looser? Maybe try some circles with that right knee. And again, be gentle. They don't have to be huge circles. Try to keep that long left leg slightly engaged. Not so much that you can't stand it anymore, but just enough to brace yourself. Bring that right knee in towards the center of your chest, and then if you can, lift the head and shoulders and give it just that little bit of extra squeeze. But is your extra squeeze tensing up the shoulders? Is it hurting your low back? Is it closing up the front side of your body so much that you can't breathe? Find the Goldilocks spot. And then notice what you notice on the back side of your body. Notice what you notice on the front side of the body. Maybe you even notice that this knee comes in a little tighter than the opposite side. Maybe not quite. Release the head and shoulders down, both knees into the chest. And take those little wiggle-jiggle movements to release that effort. Whatever it is. Maybe it's just a little sway. Maybe it's just taking a breath or two here in stillness. Maybe that is enough to release. You basically want to do a little bit of work effort and then release it before we do a little bit more work effort. So I'm going to encourage you to bring your feet down to the floor, and we are going to try our bridges again, which is basically a little bit of a back bend, depending on how high you get. So I do encourage you to listen instead of watching here, because I'd like you to keep your gaze up towards the ceiling as opposed to looking side to side and looking at the video screen. That way our neck is nice neutral and we won't cause any problems. So have your feet planted on the floor, and you might need to readjust where your feet are in a second or two. But just for now, plant them where you think it's comfortable. Take your palms and push them down into the floor. Draw your shoulders down towards the floor so you're opening up the collarbone. And then with your inhale, just lift the bum about 2 or 3 inches off the floor. Push into your feet, push into your hands, push into your shoulders, and keep that neck neutral. So basically, keep looking up towards the ceiling. So when your bum is lifted about 2 or 3 inches, don't go too much higher than that just yet. Just notice how you feel here. And then squeeze your bum cheek muscles really tight. Squeeze, squeeze. And then notice if you feel anything different on the front of your head, on the back. And then release the squeezing of your bum muscles and then gently lower yourself back down to the floor. So release the work effort. Maybe sway the knees side to side. Maybe take a little bit of an extended leg for a second or two if you need that. What can you do to release that? Release the tension that you just did or you just exerted in trying to lift your bum up off the floor. And as you're taking a second or two here, were your feet in the proper spot for you? Were you comfortable? If you think you want to readjust them slightly, forward or back, make those adjustments because we're going to do that bridge lift 2 more times. So I'm going to plant my feet, plant my shoulder blades, draw the shoulders down, plant my palms, push into the feet, hands, and with your inhale, lift those hip bones up again towards the ceiling. Keep your feet planted. We will work on other modifications later on, but right now, keep the feet pushing down into the floor. Push into your hands to see if you can lift your bum 1 or 2 more inches higher towards the ceiling. Keep that neck neutral again, look up towards the sky. And then once you're there, start squeezing those bum muscles. Glutes engage, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Notice what you notice. Where do you feel it? How's that breathing? Keep squeezing for 1 more full cycle of breath. Can you do it? Yes, you can. And then with your exhale, release the glute squeeze, release your bum cheeks, and slowly lower them down towards the floor. Release that with whatever movement that you need. Take a breath or 2 here as you release that work effort from that bridge. Take inventory of any of the information that your body is giving you now. Were your feet in the proper spot? When you lifted your bum 1 or 2 inches higher, was it too much? Was it just enough? Could you go a little higher if we went one more time? Because we're going to go one more time. So have the knees up towards the sky, plant your feet, plant the shoulders, palms down, push into your feet, push into your hands, and with your inhale, lift those hips up towards the sky. Hip bones are going up towards the sky. Your gaze is to the sky so that your neck is nice and neutral. And as you come to your highest level that you can do right now, squeeze those bum cheeks, engage those glutes. How does it feel? How does it feel? Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Keep breathing though. One more full cycle of breath. Can you do it? I think you can. A full inhale, an exhale, another inhale, and then with the exhale, release back down towards the floor. Release the effort in your glutes. Release the effort in your legs, in your shoulders. Take that little movement that you need to help kind of release that. How do you feel? How's your breathing? Take a second or two here, a breath or two, just to take that in. And then from your back, we are going to come up into a sit position and then make our way into tabletop. Do you want to use your little rock and roll motion? Maybe you want to just roll up into a sit and you don't want to roll over your knees, then maybe you can just swing them around and get to your tabletop. Or maybe you've used your rock and roll to come all the way through into your tabletop. So once again, once we come to our tabletop, hands underneath the shoulders, and try to align those knees underneath the hips. Did I say hands under the shoulders or knees? Oh boy. Hands underneath the shoulders and knees underneath the hips. So we are going to try to do a little bit of an opening for the front side of the body. So here in our tabletop position, not only are we going to try to engage our hands to plant into the floor and open up our collarbone, but we want to encourage that a little bit more. So we're going to try something a little bit different. Take an inhale to extend that left leg back behind you. Now again, notice if you shifted your weight into one hand a lot. See if you can even it out a little bit. So we're still using our two hands and one knee on the floor to brace ourselves. Now, keep that leg lifted off the floor, but bend at the knee so that you're trying to bring the sole of your foot up towards the sky. Now, don't worry if your knee is really low. Eventually, we wouldn't mind trying to get that knee to hip height, but don't worry if you're not there just yet. Where can you go? What height can you get to that you can still maintain some stability? You're not falling over, you can still breathe. Wherever you are, keep that foot engaged. So the glute is also engaged here. And what we're going to try to do is open up the collarbone and then very slightly take the gaze forward and then see if you can lift that knee one more inch. So we're trying to lengthen the front side of our body. And we are doing a very slight back bend here. So notice if you're just compressing into the shoulders, or are you opening up the collarbone nice and long, trying to keep the glute engaged. You're going to notice probably something going on in your low back, but can you manage where you are, or do you need to ease up a little bit? One more breath here, and then release the knee back down to the floor, And then sit back into your child's pose. Sit back into the child's pose so that you can release the effort that that leg just did. The glute, maybe the hamstring, maybe your calf. And release the front side of your body in your child's pose, just in case you were able to extend the front side of that body a lot when we had that knee lifted. Maybe you're very flexible in your back and you were able to get a little bit more. So now you want to give your body a little bit of a break. Release it back down. Take one more breath in child's pose. And then make your way back into tabletop. Remember, if you need a longer break, by all means, take a longer break. So back into tabletop, take that inhale to extend the opposite right leg back behind you. And again, don't worry if it's not quite hip height. Maybe you need to be a little lower because that's what you have right now. If you can get to hip height, go to hip height. What do you have right now? Bend at the knee, keep your foot flexed as if you're trying to push the ceiling with the sole of your foot. And then lift that knee to where you can comfortably breathe. So you don't want to try to push it up too high that you collapse. Can you still keep in both of your hands? Keep the glute engaged on the right leg. And then can you lift that knee just an inch or two higher up towards the sky? And notice how the front side of your body lengthens and the back side of your body contracts. It gets a little smaller. So you're doing a little bit of a back bend here. Is it too much for you right now? Did you collapse into the arms? Try to keep that collarbone nice and open. One more breath here. Keep breathing. And then release that knee back down to the floor. And just take a little bit of a wiggle jiggle movement here. Release the effort. What do you need to release? Maybe you need to go back into that child's pose for a breath or two. Maybe you'd like a couple of cat-cows here. What is going to allow your body to release the work effort that you just did? One or two more cycles of breath so that you take sufficient release to allow your body to take in that information. And then come back into your tabletop. And we're going to do a little bit of a C curve in our spine. So from your tabletop, engage the arms, open up the collarbone with your inhale. And with your exhale, just gently look over the left shoulder towards your left hip. You may not see it just yet, but in that direction, so that you lengthen the right side of your body. Your spine is in a little bit of a curve. Try to keep the knees and hips still in line. And then straighten out that spine. Come back to your tabletop. Take a breath or two here if you need. Even if you need a child's pose here, by all means, you can take a child's pose. But if you're ready, back to tabletop. Open up the collarbone with an inhale, and with an exhale, look over the right shoulder and try to keep your hips still in line. So avoid allowing the hips to really fall to the left. You'd still like to keep your hips over your knees as you do this little bit of a C curve here in your spine. Notice if both hands are engaged equally, or are you dumping a little bit more into one or the other? So now we're trying to lengthen the left side of our body. It's a gentle C curve. You might notice it a lot. You might find the sensation just gentle. And then straighten out your spine. Drop your hips back and take an active child's pose here. So I'm going to reach my fingertips forward and I'm going to tent up my fingertips so that I can actually push down with my, think of your armpit pushing down towards the floor, and my arms are active. Now for me in this particular pose, my knees open are a little bit more comfortable. Maybe your knees together might suit you better. But see if you can round the back side of your body slightly. Maybe your head can come down to the floor. Maybe it's not comfortable to go all the way down. Notice what your neck says about that. So active shoulders, active arms, but not overactive. You still want to be able to breathe here. So if you've compressed your belly so much that you can't breathe, come out of it a little bit so that you can breathe. Breathing is a good thing here. And take one more cycle of breath here. And then very gently and very slowly, walk your hands towards your knees. Maybe bring your knees in a little closer if they were wider. And just take a breath here. And just notice how that spine feels. While it was curved in that child's pose, now that you've come out of it, do you feel a little better? Do you feel that spine lengthen a little bit? Is it just a little bit straighter? And then swing the knees around to the front. And again, you might need to readjust where you are on your mat. I'm never in the right spot when I come around. So I'm going to take my legs in front. And we've done a forward fold, I think, in this position. So I'd like to encourage, let's try something a little different. So try to take your legs a little wider. Now, you might notice that your hips are really open and you're capable of going a lot wider. Don't go to your max here. Just take something a little bit wider than usual when we had our legs together in our forward fold. And what I'd like you to do here is encourage a bend in the knee so that you can see if you can straighten out that spine a little bit more with those bent knees. So if I bend my knees, maybe I can straighten out that spine a little bit more. So get your spine nice and straight first, as best as you can. And then extend those legs a little bit straighter while still keeping your spine nice and straight. So if you notice that you can't extend the legs super straight, then keep the bend if that's going to allow you to sit up nice and tall. If you're able to, by all means, straighten out the legs, but don't force them down. I'd rather you have a soft little bend in the knee, but then you get that nice long spine. I'm going to stay right here with a a gentle little bend in my knee, but I know here I can have my spine much straighter. So again, here, take a few breaths to just notice, how does that spine feel in this nice straight position? Are you comfortable here? Do you already have enough sensation going on in your legs and hamstrings and glutes that you don't want to move? Or you might notice, I think I have a little bit more space. I have a little bit more room to go into. And I'm going to try to go into a little bit of a fold. Now you can join me or you can stay exactly upright here if you want. If you're going to join me, take an inhale to lengthen that spine, and then with your exhale, just hinge forward at the hip, not at the waist, just at the hip. And don't go a lot. Go gently forward, maybe an inch or two. Keep those gentle bend in the knees. You can hang on gently here, just don't have a death grip. And just notice, how does my spine feel, keeping it straight, driving your glutes, your bum cheeks into the floor. How does this forward fold feel here? Can you still breathe? If you can't breathe, that means you've gone too far. So straighten that torso back up if that's what you need. I'm going to go a little bit further because right now that feels pretty good for me. I got a nice stretch going on. I feel a little bit of sensation, but nothing too overwhelming. I can still take deep, nice, full, easy breaths, so I know I'm not gone too far. If my breath got super shallow, then that would be a pretty good indication that I've gone too far. So that's why our breath is always a nice indicator of where we should be in our practice. Should we be pushing a little bit further? Should we be easing off? So see if you can take 2 more full cycles of breath. Remember, our cycle of breath is a full inhale and your full exhale. If you have hinged forward at the hip, bring your torso back up into a more vertical position. Take a hold of those knees, legs, soften them even more so that you can kind of walk your feet in just to take a little bit of a breather here. Just kind of relax. Sometimes taking that straddle is a little bit difficult for the thighs, the inner and outer thighs. So just give them a breath or two here. And then very gently, very easy, bring those feet around to the side so that you're back behind you. Get back into your tabletop. And what I'd like you to do is get into your down dog. So hands planted, toes tucked. Take the inhale to engage those arms, open up the collarbone, and with your exhale, go up into your down dog and start with those pretty generously bent knees. What I'd like you to do is push the shoulders back behind your wrists to get the length in your spine first. You might need to readjust those feet slightly. Find the length in your spine first And then extend the legs maybe a little straighter. And what I want you to do is just feel how your down dog feels right now. After all the previous movements that we've done, does your spine feel a little longer? Do your hamstrings feel a little lengthened? All of those previous little gentle movements of opening up the front side of the body and the back side, working the glutes, all of those little movements, have they changed how your down dog feels right now? So do you feel the length in your spine? Do you feel any length in your legs? Don't worry if you don't feel or if you don't notice a difference. If you're uncertain, don't fret. Don't fret about that. Hopefully you do notice a little bit of a difference. And again, don't worry if you don't. Basically, if you feel pretty good, then you've done the job properly. Soften out of that down dog a little bit, and you can walk your feet a little closer in towards your hands, and then also walk your hands closer into your feet. Don't worry if you have to soften the knees a little bit. Take a little inhale just to kind of lift out of your belly. Open up your collarbone, draw that belly button in, and with your exhale, get into your forward fold. And again, whichever version of your forward fold you need right now. Is it a bent knee? Are your legs maybe a little longer, straighter? And just like we did in the down dog, I'd like you to notice how you feel in your forward fold. Do you by chance feel a little bit of a length in the legs, in the hamstrings, in your calf? Do you maybe notice that the spine seems or it feels a little longer? Maybe you notice that you're able to get your nose just that little closer to your knees. Maybe you notice that your hands come a little bit closer to the floor. Maybe you can get your palms down flat. Don't worry if you can't. Maybe you're still working at the height where your fingertips are only touching the floor. What we're looking for is slowly, gently, over time, creating space in the backside of our body to get a little deeper into our forward fold. It may not happen today, but over time, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for length in our hamstring, length in our low back, length in our spine. Still stay in your forward fold if you possibly can for another breath or two. Keeping that neck nice and relaxed, shoulders relaxed. One more full cycle of breath if you can handle it. Lift your torso slightly out so that you can bring yourself back down to your tabletop. And again, depending on how you feel from that down dog and that forward fold, you might need to take a second or two here, take a breath, release. Maybe a child's pose, maybe another cat-cow or two. Maybe just hanging out in tabletop for a second or two. Because sometimes that forward fold with our head low Sometimes it takes the wind out of our sails and we just need to recover from that. Sometimes it takes one breath, sometimes it takes several. If you think that you're ready, make your way into the pose that you want to finish in. Is that going to be Shavasana? Is it going to be a modified Shavasana? Maybe you need a prop for your Shavasana. Maybe you want to come to a sit position. What is going to be a pose that you are going to be able to release? You want to release the tension, release the stress. And once you've settled into what you want to be in, try to surrender again into calm. Surrender into the floor, into your mat. Allow your muscles to release. And as you're allowing those muscles to release, how do you feel compared to when we first started our practice? Is it exactly the same as when you started? Did our little gentle movements maybe create the feeling of lightness? Maybe your spine feels a little straighter. Maybe it doesn't. Acknowledge what you feel here. It's not particularly a right or wrong answer. Whatever you're feeling right now, it's what you're feeling. It's your personal feeling. It's probably not the same as what I'm feeling or somebody else. Acknowledge what you're feeling right now. We'll take about 5 breaths here. Allowing those inhales to be as smooth as you can make them right now, so that your body has an opportunity to take in all the goodness from our movement. All the little things that we did creates good things in our body. Those little movements sometimes don't seem like they're big. They don't seem like they're going to do a lot. But those little movements actually do very good for our bodies. So just take a few more breaths here. Acknowledge all of those good feelings. And even if you notice a couple of negative feelings, acknowledge them, but then let them keep passing. I like to think of a good thing here. Maybe I created a little bit of space in a particularly tight spot. I'm going to celebrate that, because that means I'm one step closer to creating freedom. Movement for me is freedom. Freedom to do more things if I want. Gently bring in more air in your inhale. Release it in your exhale. And then invite those gentle, small movements to wake up the body. And those movements are unique to you. You know what feels good for yourself right now. If you're in a sit position, stay right there. If you're in your Shavasana, lying down on your back, slowly take your time and gently bring yourself back up into a sit position. And when I say take your time, I'm talking 3 or 4 breaths to get up. You don't want to jolt yourself up too quickly. And as you come to your sit position, whichever leg position you want, cross-legged or in front, find a comfortable position for your hand, whichever one is most suitable, most comfortable for you. And in our sit position, we'll take one more cleansing full cycle of breath. A nice big deep inhale. Let it go in your exhale. We'll finish our practice here, honoring the light within. Namaste. So I hope that you feel a little bit better. Even with our gentle movements, those shifts that we notice throughout our body, those are good for us. We don't want those movements to cause a lot of pain. So if you notice that sometimes you go into a pose that's, you go into it maybe a little bit too deep, always know that you can take it back a little bit. We want to gently coax our bodies into opening up. So we want to get that open feeling so that we can take in more goodness. Okay? So I hope that this will help you bring in the new season, springtime, a little bit easier. And hopefully it creates a little bit more space so that we can continue our practice. And when we get into something that's a little bit more difficult, some of the poses that are a little bit more difficult, hopefully you can find the right modification that you can get into those poses with more ease. So that is it for today, and we will see you soon. Bye for now. Hi everyone. Would you be interested in doing a Zoom class with me? If the answer is yes, please email me. I'll provide an email in the description, and I'll probably put one on the screen right after I say this. And in that email, let me know if you would prefer a weekday, a weekend, would you prefer morning, would you prefer evening? And once I gather all that information, if I get that feedback from you, if there's enough interest, then I will let you know when we are going to be doing that. So if you're interested in doing a Zoom class, let me know.